Hello, I'm Enzo, and how hard is it to beat Stoneblock? And yes, this is the first version of Stoneblock. I was looking at playing Skyfactory instead, and I might do that for a video if enough people request it, but I lost interest the second I learned that it starts in monochrome, aka black and white, and you unlock colors over time. It's a neat concept, but I hate the fact you can't tell what's what at the beginning. And I wasn't planning to play the original Stoneblock, so I was trying 3 at first, but it crashed the first time I broke a block. So here we are. So what is Stoneblock? Well, it's like the opposite of Skyblock. The entire world is a giant chunk of stone, and you dig your way around to make space to work and build things, much like an ant colony. And obviously, all the starting stuff is based off of stone. To start out in this mod pack, we can break stone with an empty hand. Faster with an empty hand at least. This also gives us pebbles, which we can use to make cobblestone, and eventually everything else we'll need. Cobblestone is used to make a crafting table, which is just weird seeing a gray crafting table. An insanely important part about this mod is the fact you get loot chests from completing missions. You can get some crazy good stuff from these things. Sometimes you get something like epic bacon, which lasted me a long time in the early game, which meant I didn't have to worry about food, which was very nice. Anyways, my current goal is to get a stone hammer. This will let me mine stone even faster and break it down into gravel and all the other components. I didn't know this at the start, but apparently in this pack, gravel breaks down into dirt before sand and dust, which means that's one more step when I'm gonna need sand and dust later on, which is very annoying, for the early game at least. Now that I had dirt, I had no clue how I was supposed to get a sapling and a tree. However, apparently you get that by breaking dirt with a crook. So that was completely unexpected for me. The worst part is it wants you to get all of the saplings, and a bunch of all of them. So that means I'm gonna cut back once I've gotten enough to get said saplings. Even though I'm literally only going to be using oak. I mean, I guess maybe some of the trees could be useful later on, I don't know. So, what you're seeing now is my 3 brain cells attempting to do something, and failing horribly. So, this pack does have the ore excavator mod. However, I thought it was called vein miner, because it's vein miner instead of ore excavator in some packs. I really should have remembered. But yeah, I won't be using vein mining for quite a while, and it's insanely good once I discover it, but yeah, until then, all of this is completely manual labor. Strictly speaking, I didn't have to complete the quest, but I just did because I can. I could have started growing the tree and doing everything else, but obviously all of my progression is still locked behind that. Anyways, we have the ability to spam shift to grow trees, which is pretty nice. And with experience from crash landing, I decided to make some shears to get leaves. Just in case. They won't be insanely useful, but they will help me start producing some water with the crucible, which will be nice. Another thing I was thinking of this entire run is how all 3 of my Minecraft series so far have been like very compact, limited space runs. Okay, obviously crash landing you can build out as big as you want, but I didn't choose to do that. I don't know, I guess I like small enclosed spaces. Not super tight, but a nice cozy space, like this. This mod pack also has Tinker's Construct, literally my favorite Minecraft mod ever. So, you know that I'm going to be making Tinker's tools the second I can. Now that I have trees, I actually have that ability. This is important because we also have the mod that lets you level up Tinker's tools. So, the sooner I can make the tools, I can upgrade them throughout the run and use them for literally ever in this run, which is awesome. If you know or have seen some of the mods I've been using so far, and, well, very similar to my other runs, you should know what I'm doing currently. I'm working on a sieve, so I can start sieving the gravel and other products I can get from this abundance, to say the least, of cobblestone. That's my next major step of progression in this run. Now, it took me a while to remember that heavy sieves are actually a thing, so I'd normally go for like a massive array of like 25 sieves. That's why I used to do in Skyfactory. But yeah, just one heavy sieve is infinitely more efficient, especially once you factor in the price of like the iron and especially diamond meshes. So I wish I'd remembered to use the heavy sieve earlier instead of brute forcing normal ones, but oh well. And I have no clue what adds this, but here's the coolest tool I've found in Tinker's Construct so far: a normal hammer. It's technically called a sledgehammer because it's the smaller one instead of the normal one that mines 3x3, which you know I will be getting. I absolutely need that for this pack. But this is awesome because now I have an ex Nilo hammer, because that's what it functions as, that I can actually level up, and now I don't have to worry about making, iron and diamond ones that break 24/7. And you will see, I get to some interesting shenanigans with this hammer later on. Either way, my next goal is to start getting iron, so that I can do everything that iron unlocks. Those leaves I had literally only got 2 uses in this entire run. One was to make water from a crucible, and the other was scaffolding when I was doing some early excavation. And obviously water is extremely important. Thankfully, this is not crash landing, so we can make a 2x2 infinite water source. And with water, the ability to make, gravel, sand, and dust, you might be able to guess the next thing I'm going for. That's going to be the Tinker's Construct Smeltery. This is insanely important because this will double. I don't know, it might even triple in this version because sometimes my math was off, but I haven't checked. I think it's still just double the amount of iron, for example, I get from, the ores. In this case, it's ore chunks, but you get the point. It doubles the amount of iron I can get pretty much, which is insanely important because iron takes quite a bit of work to get to. Since I haven't been using ore excavator, because I didn't know how right at the beginning, food isn't a major issue, but definitely something that is important. Since Pam's Harvest Craft is installed, obviously all of the base Minecraft foods are nerfed like crazy, so I'm going to need something to get me by for a while. And apples are my only choice at this point. Anyways, I am practically ready to start construction on the smeltery. I built a crucible using clay and bone meal, which you get from dust, and all of my grout is almost finished cooking. It took me a while to excavate, but here's a nice little room for my smeltery. My whole plan at the beginning was to make, this whole set of symmetrical rooms. So this first one is a 9x9, and that's what the smeltery room is going to be. I'll do that, in one ring layer around it and then make larger rooms the next layer. That never really panned out. Anyways, I think you can make like a 4x4 smeltery, but I haven't done that in so long I can't remember if it actually works. I just go with the classic 5x5 with the 3x3 in middle. That's what I'm referencing. The other awesome thing about the smeltery is the fact, in most versions, not crash landing apparently, you can put stone in and you'll get seared stone. It's the same material as the bricks. So you can either pour it out as ingots so you don't have to make any more grout, which is awesome because grout is ridiculously annoying to make, or pour it out and make stone blocks. With the help of a chisel, I can turn those back into stone bricks and make them look beautiful. And with those, I can keep the smeltery uniform and not have just like half normal ugly stone and half bricks. Since the base rate of the crucible is 1, I don't know if you need a torch. I think in some versions you don't, but I always put a torch under it just in case. But as we all know, fire is way better. Unfortunately, lava isn't as good as fire. Fire is like a 4 times, lava is a 2 times, interestingly enough, but it's cheap enough. All you need is 1 bucket of lava and redstone to make some netherrack. With my smeltery, I can finally upgrade some of my tools, and eventually make even better ones. My first goal is to upgrade my hammer, because that's what I'm using to break down cobblestone to get all the ores in the first place. So, long story short, my original idea was to use some of the Invar, because I'm getting Invar from mission rewards. Some of them give you Invar hammers, which I can melt down in the smeltery. However, I didn't realize that Tinker's Construct doesn't use Invar for any of its parts. So, I don't have any other good options besides bronze right now. Which, that's alright, because bronze is pretty decent at this stage, but I was hoping for an Invar tool. Oh well. Right now, I don't have any machines that actually need power, but I decided to work on some of the basic generators just to get the loot boxes. You never know what you'll get from them. Obviously, in this process, I'm still working on getting more ores and stuff like that. Since there's no other use for this power, I decided to try an auto hammer to save me a bit of work. The only issue is I forgot it actually requires a diamond hammer. It doesn't work with iron hammers, which makes no sense at all, but also some because it requires a diamond hammer to craft. Anyways, that was annoying. At least I can throw them in the smeltery to refund my iron. Since this hammer is going to get an insane amount of use throughout this run, I'm planning to upgrade it with reinforcements, which basically is like unbreaking, where it gives it a 20% chance per level to not use durability. Now, since this is a different version of Tinker's construct that I'm used to, the crafting recipe for a reinforcement modifier is different. It's not just an obsidian plate anymore. You actually need one of the normal casting plates that you get with either gold or aluminum brass, and it can actually be any of them, I'm pretty sure, just surrounded by obsidian, which means they are more expensive to make, which is annoying, but at least I understand how it works now. Speaking of aluminum brass, because it's relatively cheap to make, because I have so much aluminum, copper is a little annoying, but not too bad. I built a tool station out of it. It costs 4 blocks of most metals, I believe. I'd normally make it out of iron, but you know, iron is kind of limited and always useful. Aluminum brass is not. With that, I can finally make larger tools, like the hammer. Yes, I know it's weird, the small one is sledgehammer, normal one is just normal hammer. But this lets me mine in a 3x3x1 block pattern, which is amazing for excavating areas, especially in this mod pack. With this, I can finally make new rooms where I can build machines and pretty much anything else I'll need. So that's going to save me quite a bit of time. One item I really wish I knew was in this pack earlier is the bonsai pot. This is insanely good because this lets me automatically grow trees in a 1 or technically 2 block with a chest structure. It is amazing, and it can grow quite a bit of stuff, which I did not expect. And being able to grow other stuff may come in handy later on. The best part of it all is it's super cheap to make. It just requires 5 clay, which you then turn into bricks, and the ingredients of a hopper, which is also cheap at this stage. And you can just leave it running infinitely as long as there's storage room and a chest below it. It is definitely one of my favorite modded blocks in the game. For a while, I've just been sifting through all sorts of stuff, the most important of which being sand. This gives me a ridiculous amount of useful stuff, the 2 most important being prosperity shards and yellorium. The second I saw extreme reactors was in here, I knew exactly what my power solution was gonna be. I've got an unstoppable case of uranium fever. Prosperity shards are also gonna help me with my other plan, but since it's gonna be a while before I actually get into farming and crops and everything like that, in the meantime, I'm working on a way to speed up the entire sifting process, and that starts with getting stuff like gravel or sand way faster. Now, I only realized until way later that I actually made the building gadget, not the copy and paste tool. However, I think this worked out better in the end. Copy and paste definitely would have been quicker, but I think I need clipboards or books and quills, I'm actually not sure. Either way, with this tool, I can fill a room at least a bit faster now with whatever material I have to break down into its next form, which will, like I said, speed up the entire resource gathering process. To handle the new amount of ores I'm getting with all of this, I decided to upgrade my smeltery to a 7x7 length outside, 5x5 inside. This gives me, obviously, way more capacity and more slots to put items in to smelt. Since I love the Extreme Reactors mod so much, and no other generator was that interesting to me, it's time to build an Extreme Reactor. I'm probably gonna call it Big Reactors because that's the older name of the mod. Anyways, the only issue with Big Reactors is the fact they are extremely expensive to make. Even a simple 3x3x3 takes quite a few materials to make. A lot of iron, gold, coal, and yellorium. The other mild issue being the fact that yellorium ore smelts into uranium, which doesn't function the exact same because it's used in some different crafting recipes. Obviously that's unique to this pack because I've never seen it before, but this is also where the uranium comes into play, We need these for control rods and the actual fuel cells. So yeah, I'm very glad I got this Yellorium ore from the loot drops. That is insanely convenient. I got some crazy good loot drops in this run, if the epic bacon wasn't a good sign already. And here it is, the smallest extreme reactor possible, 3x3x3. And the power generation, 256 RF a tick at this size. It's a little bit sad, I'll admit, but it's better than most other generators at this point, especially for how much it costs, which is nice. Now obviously I don't need much power right now, and I can just scale it up later on when I do start needing real amounts of power. I didn't show it, but I did upgrade the first crucible a tiny bit, but that was just one. Here is a 5 crucible setup making lava, which will be turned into obsidian. Obsidian has a ton of uses in, well, most mod packs at least. I could have used lava for other stuff including power, but I think obsidian is going to be the best use for at least a while. My next goal was to start work on a storage system. Here's the bizarre thing about this mod pack. It has both refined storage and applied energetics, which make no sense because they're pretty much the same mod. Now, I will eventually go for refined storage because it is technically easier and cheaper to do, so that tripped me up right at the beginning. Then I ran into a major issue, that being the fact that I need slime balls to be able to do anything in refined storage, to make the processor binding, to make all the chips and everything like that. So, I have a few options. Now, I should have made a mob grinder by now, that's what the game recommends, but I'm stubborn. I have a unique option here because I actually spawned in a swamp biome, which I hate, but I could use to my advantage to get slimes easier, and the HUD tells me what chunks are slime chunks. However, I saw an even better option. Rice slime balls. So that means I'm gonna have to finally start my farming arc. It obviously starts with sieving a bunch of dirt, which is very easy thanks to being able to just break down gravel into dirt. That is the only nice thing about having another step in that process. Then I was trying out this flask of adrenaline, which I saw as a haste potion. The weird thing is the fact it actually has 6 charges at the beginning. I'm like, okay, that's something nice from Botania for once. This made clearing out this entire area a whole lot easier. This is going to become my farm. I turned the floor into dirt and used this awesome growth crystal, which this is a tier 3 by the way, these are extremely expensive. I got this, of course, from a loot bag. Now, for some reason, I thought it was 9x9 as goes 9 blocks out in each direction. No, it's only 4, like a standard water source. So yeah, my big brain right there. But this will finally let me start growing crops. Obviously, I've got the basics like wheat, carrots, and obviously the rice that I need. I'm gonna convert the other part of this area into grass so that I can start spawning some passive mobs for various uses. The seeds are taking quite a while to grow, so I made a watering can, and I was trying the tactic of spamming shift. Now here's the bizarre thing, it didn't happen when I was growing the trees, but I got jump scared by the freaking sticky key pop-up. Yes, that's how you can tell this is a new computer that hasn't played Minecraft yet. The sticky key pop-up wasn't activated before. That's hilarious. I legitimately forgot that thing existed. Why it still happens? Who knows? Freaking Windows, man. At this point, I have most of the stuff I need for the refined storage system. There's only one major issue. That is, of course, silicone. Now, there are some alternative ways I could get this. I could make mycelium to get witch water and get soul sand from that, and have the very rare chance to get nether quartz from soul sand. However, I thought it would just be better if I at least checked out what the nether is. Now, I had no clue what to expect, because in Skyfactory, you know, the nether is completely empty. Well, except for nether fortresses, because those are pretty important. But here's the bizarre thing. In Stoneblock, nethers are completely normal. I'm not complaining, obviously, that is insanely useful for me. So I'm gonna spend some sweet time mining a bunch of quartz. Even though I made myself a set of iron armor, I should have made some weapon, especially like a crossbow, at this point. Now, the nether is a dangerous place normally, but mods always seem to make it worse. Yes, I just died to a nether creeper. Cause of course those are a thing now. They're called nitro creepers and they explode way stronger than normal creepers. The knockback is actually what killed me. I would have been fine if I hadn't died to that fall. So that's an annoying setback. The other amazing thing I got from the nether is Inferium Essence. Normally I would get this from killing mobs, but I still haven't made a mob farm, so this is the other great source of it. Inferium Essence, as well as Prosperity Shards, are what lets us start Mystical Agriculture, one of my favorite mods. You can grow pretty much anything out of plants in this mod. It's awesome. But obviously we have to start somewhere, and I'm gonna have to start growing some Infernium seeds. Now, I made the wrong kind at the beginning. You have to surround a wheat seed with just the Infernium Essence, not the Prosperity Shards. That's how you get the crafting seeds, to make other types of seeds. But still, that's good that we started it. I've also had some coke coal ovens running for quite a while now, which has given me a great source of fuel, but more importantly, creosote oil that I need to make treated wood. And if you've seen my compact claustrophobia, you should already know exactly where this is all going. It's garden cloche time. And I am going to not double, but like triple or quadruple down on garden cloches. I'm guessing there are several ways to get resources in this pack. Well, actually, I know there's a ridiculous amount of mods in here, but I'm going with my classic favorite, garden cloches and mystical agriculture. The only annoyance currently is the fact I actually have to make the garden cloches and all of their parts, which I'm going to need a bunch of different things for, so I'm going to start preparing for that now. As you can see, the smeltery only has one issue. That is the fact it tends to alloy some things. This is the bane of my existence. I forgot I had just a tiny bit of iron in there, and boom, that's all turned into Invar, when I actually just want the nickel so I can make the lights for the garden cloches. And finally, I can start using all of my garden cloches. All of the inputs and outputs are pretty simple. Item duct for output, power from the reactor. I think these things only take like 8 RF a tick. I looked at it sometime, it's extremely cheap. The only issue is I have to manually refill it with water, but I will get an infinite water source from Ender.io a bit later on. But this means I can start growing Infernium Essence, which means I don't have to go back to the nether to get it anymore, which is pretty awesome. And once I have enough Infernium Essence, I can start upgrading it to make higher tiers of Essence, and eventually better seeds that can grow stuff like iron and redstone. But that's still quite a ways off. While all of that's going, I can finally build my refined storage system. This is going to be great because now I can throw all of my stuff in there and not have to search through chests for hours to get it. I still will put some basic like single stack items in chests so that doesn't clog up my storage system. But that's mainly an issue with Applied Energetics because AE has a system where you only can have so many types of items per storage drive, but obviously a way larger quantity of items compared to types. Refined storage doesn't care about any of that. The amount of storage in the drive is what you can store in there. Doesn't care about different item types at all, which is honestly why I prefer refined storage. And it's also way easier in later versions like this one. So, long story. The clip that you're about to see should have been of me building the storage system. Here's what happened instead. Now, you might be wondering why are all the items in the middle and why is it back to the beginning? So, some really weird stuff happened. First of all, the rest of the world is still intact. That's the weird thing. Only the starting area got reset. The reason this all happened is because my computer crashed, and it was a full-on blue screen and everything. For a while, I didn't know why this happened, but I figured out that it's actually my microphone. Don't know why, but it's something to do with crappy microphone drivers, and I don't know how to fix it. Which means I'm hoping to actually retire this microphone eventually. Even though it's an expensive Blue Yeti, if it keeps crashing my computer, I have no choice. I know it's the microphone because after I unplugged it, I've had no issues with crashing. But once I plug it back in, yeah, I've crashed a few times trying to record all of this. Fun, trust me. So, yet again, bright side, I know what causes it. The major issue is the fact my world is now this, and I've just lost a ton of items. So what can I do now? At this point, I was legitimately thinking of dropping this run and trying to figure something else out very quickly. However, there's an awesome mod in here called FTB Backup, and it does exactly what it sounds like. It backs up your game. The only issue is it only does it every so many hours, which I changed later to like every 30 minutes or so. Here's the result of the backup. Like I said, it's a few hours previous, so I lost a ridiculous amount of progress. To deal with that, I went into creative mode and tried to rebuild everything to the best of my ability. The only thing I didn't rebuild completely was the farm, which honestly was a good idea because the farm wasn't that effective. The garden cloches were infinitely better, but you get the point. Yet again, I really wish none of that happened because it's always extremely annoying when you lose progress, especially in a video game, and you kind of lose motivation because you have to do it all over again. The other thing, and me and my dad were talking about this, is why the hell does Windows crash the entire computer if there's a bad driver like that? I get if it's like a super important like graphics or CPU or something like that driver that's bad, but no. This is literally something for an external device, the microphone. Why can't that just be disconnected when it crashes? Why does it take the entire PC with it, by the way? It makes absolutely zero sense to me. Why the driver is there and malfunctioning in the first place, it hasn't been fixed? Who knows? That's the other thing. Like, why does Windows not have better software to detect and update drivers in the first place? Why do I have to install some sketchy third-party software to attempt to update the drivers that Windows isn't doing? It's a mess. I wish Windows was a better operating system. I would like to use Linux because I know everyone says it's super good. I just have no choice. 90% of the software I need and use is on Windows. I literally have no choice but to use this horribly patched operating system. It is what it is. After a while of sorting all of my stuff and building my storage system for real, I can now focus on some other stuff. The first thing I did was make a master infusion crystal. This is important so that you don't waste a ton of resources on making the basic crystals, especially considering they cost diamonds, which I don't have many of at this point. And I start upgrading my infernium seeds so that I can grow more and more per seed. I'm pretty sure it grows 1 extra Infernium essence per tier. So at tier 1 it's 1, 2 is 2, so on and so forth. I will have to start work on the other seeds a bit later on, but that's still great for now. My next goal is to start working on more garden cloches and begin work on some thermodynamics machines, as they'll be insanely useful. The machines I'm going to need first are the pulverizer and induction smelter. Now, if you see my compact claustrophobia, you might know why this is an important combo. I need hardened glass. Hardened glass is useful for a ton of thermodynamic stuff, but more importantly, I need that to make the Ender.io Endivoire. It's a weird word, I know, but that is how I'll be able to get an infinite water source relatively easily. However, I naively thought it was just as simple as making some hardened glass. No, of course it's not that easy. It also wants quartz glass from Ender.io. The issue with getting quartz glass is that I need a special alloy smelter, which thankfully you can make a pretty simple and cheap version, but I did not expect that, and that's a slightly annoying setback. A while later, my fused quartz is finally done, and there it is, the Endivoire. Pretty much you just place a bunch of these. I don't know if you can really just do 2. That would be neat, and maybe I should test that. But I decided to place all 4 just in case. As long as you put 2 buckets of water in and don't take too much out at once, you get an infinite water source. I believe this is the best method for infinite water in any mod pack ever. I love it. And now I don't have to worry about watering my crops ever again. This system is now completely automatic. Besides the fact I have to take out all the infernium and store that myself, definitely should have automated that early on, but oh well. Now that I'm producing a decent amount of essence, I can finally start working on some better seeds. Not for essence itself, but actual important resources, like redstone and iron. Those are the 2 I always go for first, because those are the 2 resources you will always need, no matter what. And something I'll say now that I should have done way earlier is you just want to make as many of these as possible. You can never have too much redstone or iron. and that is a universal fact across all mod packs. While that is going, I was planning to expand my base up and down, but I'll be honest, nothing really came of that whole staircase project. You see, I want to use elevators, but those cost ender pearls, which I don't have a decent source of yet, so that kind of didn't happen until way later on in the run. So that's just going to be an eyesore for a while. You might have also noticed that I've been upgrading all of my tools. Now that I have a decent amount of materials in my reserve, I finally started upgrading them to stuff like iron, bronze, and electrum. Electrum gives quite a bit of mining speed, which obviously can be quite important. It also gives you a haste boost once you run around enough with it to charge it up, which is actually a super cool mechanic. I really like it. Another major benefit of having this many materials now is the fact I can upgrade my reactor again. Now, unfortunately, it's going to be a 6x4, so it's a bit derpy. So it looks a little derpy, but hey, it works. And I'm going to need more power generation for the future. Since I don't have any other options currently, it's just going to be water cooled. It's nothing crazy, but it's still very efficient. While I was working on upgrading my furnaces with mystical agriculture, that's another one of my favorite parts of this mod, you can get some crazy furnace efficiency, especially with the ultimate one. It's awesome. Anyways, the loot boxes come in absolute clutch yet again with the rewards I'm getting from these. So I don't know the entire pool of loot, but 8 florbs of gelid cryolithium. So that's pretty much one of the best coolants for a reactor you can get. You can probably guess what I did with this immediately. I was perfectly fine with just using water to cool my reactor, but since I got this, I mean, might as well. The game literally gave it to me on a silver platter. Unfortunately, I have to use all 8 because gelid cryolithium, it's complicated because it's not like lava or water. The single block source will fall down all the way to the bottom, so there is actually going to be one air block missing, sadly. But either way, it's still way better than water in terms of efficiency. My next major goal is to start exploring the Nether and looting some fortresses. The main issue, I can't fly. So I was going to start work on a jetpack, but I don't have leather to make the straps, so I need rotten flesh somehow. I was planning to set up a mob farm when, insane coincidence, I just happened to open up a loot bag. Besides learning that building wands exist, I knew there were builder's wands, but I thought there were only the nether star ones, so I'm stupid. More importantly, I got this air charm, which works as a very basic sort of flight. And well, yeah, that kind of solved all of my problems right there. I can now fly. Yep, I can go explore the nether now. No jetpack needed. So that was a very, very interesting coincidence. The nether has a ridiculous amount of valuable materials. Besides the Infernium and Prosperity Shards, I'm looking for blaze rods. Even though I can compact blaze powder that I'm getting from dust, I believe, still, raw blaze rods are far easier to get. There's plenty of loot from the chests, which is very nice, including some very cool items, and more air charms, which means more flying time, because yes, it does have a durability. But I'll skip all of the boring stuff here, especially considering I have very limited inventory room. Two of the most interesting things I got are these cakes. One added a 3x3 crafting grid in my inventory, which was pretty freaking awesome, and the other one gave me another inventory, which is even cooler. So yeah, definitely visit the nether. There's even better stuff in here than the vanilla game. There is so much good stuff here. After all this time, I finally built a basic mob grinder. Because of another useful resource in the nether, you'll see giant patches of gray stone. Well, that's soul stone, which you use with mystical agriculture to make this solium ingot to make this solium dagger. This lets us get mob chunks. These can be used to make mob seeds, or you can actually smelt them to make the base chunks, which you can then upgrade and then craft to get whatever chunks you're actually looking for. So that's why I need a mob grinder. I also made these fans to help speed up the mob trapping process. They are incredibly effective. However, I should have blocked the whole thing up before I turned them on, because some mobs do just fly over the trapdoors. But still, it was a whole learning process. Considering I still don't have a real weapon, I've been using the Matic and Solium dagger for combat. I'm using an alloy that you get from Cobalt and Ardite, well, from the Nether, called Minoleon. I probably butchered pronouncing that, but oh well. It is the strongest material in Tinker's Construct. Other mods add slightly better materials, but those are still far out of my reach. This whole time, I've been working on gathering a ridiculous amount of materials to start working on this massive room and filling it with garden cloches. Yes, that is the entire goal of this run, and hopefully how I'll be getting all of my resources. If I truly need more than I can produce with just garden cloches, I'll have to find another way, but that's a problem I'll worry about later on. I've been crafting a ton of new types of seeds. Besides the basic iron and redstone, I made some coal and gold previously because those are also important and common materials I'll be needing. Part of the reason I've been working on the mob grinder and using the solarium dagger to get mob chunks is so I can start making mob seeds. The main ones I'm actually looking for are of course enderman seeds to get plenty of ender pearls for later on, and in the long term, wither seeds, so that I can make wither skeleton skulls to make spawning the wither boss possible. Sorting through all the junk I've been getting from loot bags, I tried to figure out what this specter coil does. Well, apparently you put it on a machine and it automatically supplies 128 RF a tick of power, which is pretty ridiculous. I don't have to connect certain machines to the grid if I don't want to, as long as they're cheap enough. That's a very neat little item, and I've gotten a ton of them because I keep opening loot boxes. It's too addicting. I slightly automated my mob farm. I definitely could have done a whole better. I put 2 spikes at the top to kill the spiders and 2 here at the bottom for the normal enemies. Yeah, I realize now I could have made it better with 3 spikes at the bottom and just 1 at the top, but oh well. I also added some item ducts and these blocks, which pretty much recycle all the loot I get from loot bags that I open and turn lower tier loot bags into legendary ones, or whatever ones I choose, which will actually come in handy way later on. Skipping quite a bit of what you've already seen, I made this 5x5x4 wither cage out of reinforced obsidian, which is just obsidian and iron bars, very cheap, a set of emerald armor, and it's finally time to fight the wither. Which, yeah, slight cheese here, but I mean, why not? This is much preferable to having to fight him out in the open where he can just destroy everything. So that's pretty neat. Now, unfortunately, I did not heal enough and actually died to the wither effect. I didn't think it would deal that much damage, but the difficulty is on hard currently. I set it to easy later on because I thought there would be better drops, but no, the drops are completely the same. After spending a ridiculous amount of time in the nether trying to get wither skeleton skulls, I really should have just made the seeds first instead of killing the wither. That was probably a major mistake, but I'm finally making the wither skeleton seeds I actually need so I can get more wither skulls later on. The only issue is to make the skulls, we actually need special skull templates, which you get from bone blocks and soul dust. Soul dust we already know is smelting soul stone down. Bone blocks are the Minecraft vanilla bone blocks. We know how to get those, but it's just going to be slightly annoying. Maybe I should invest in some skeleton seeds later on so I can automate bone meal production. Thanks to the enderman seeds I made, I have a ridiculous amount of ender pearls in reserve now, which I can make elevators out of, and a bunch of other super useful stuff, but mostly for now, elevators. Now I can finally start designing upper and lower levels, but funny story, I literally didn't for a super long time either. Like I said at the beginning, this place is super comfy in this nice confined level. Also, considering the amount of Inferium I'm now creating, and my resource richness, relatively at least, I made this giant stack of sequential fabricators. These are the crafters from thermodynamics, and a bunch of crystals with some of those specter coils, and boom, automatic supremium essence crafting. It is beautiful. The best part is you can always uncraft supremium into the lower tiers. So it's literally best just to automate the highest tier production, because like I said, you can uncraft it later on yourself, and it takes up less space at higher tiers. You can also see here some of the other things I've been getting. Yellorium, Blizz rods, which are how you get cryolithium and Blizz powder, and a meat, which is actually sheep essence. I literally only made the sheep essence to get wool easier. That's the only reason. But now that I have all of the materials to do so, I can finally make the ultimate furnace. The ultimate furnace is ridiculously expensive. However, it's over 9,000 power, which I still love that reference, is absolutely worth it. This thing cooks everything insanely fast. I love it. After that, I decide to explore my world. On the surface, it is a single layer of lava, which is completely unexpected. But it's good to know that there is a surface because that's how they expect you to use solar panels. I was wondering how that would work. But yeah, I definitely should come prepared for lava next time I'm up here. Now, I don't know what went wrong in my brain, but I thought there would be a layer of bedrock at the bottom of the world. Maybe I should have been a bit more careful, cause no, apparently it's just void. Thankfully, with the tombstone mod that's on here, it spawns a tombstone with all my stuff right above the void. And thankfully everything goes right into your inventory, cause I should have placed blocks around it so I didn't lose anything. But yeah, that's very good to know. Lava top, void bottom. For my next main goal, I literally dug a massive tunnel to find another biome. I was trying to get different flowers to spawn because you only get the light blue flowers in the swamp, which is really annoying. Anyways, I need some sort of pink flower. And it has to be a flower specifically. I need this to make the pink quartz or whatever so that I can eventually get an artificial end portal. I'm gonna skip a lot of suffering and just say I never found any pink flowers. And since I was getting mad, I was like, alright, this is just stupid. I decided to give myself the materials that I would have needed to make all that. Because I have everything else, it's just those stupid pink flowers. All to end up learning that it just wants you to look up how to make it. Which is even stupider, that it doesn't even tell you how to make it in the game. Makes no sense to me at all. So in the end, which funnily enough is where I'm headed, I just gave myself an end cake. Right before I headed to said end, I decided to make a Manulin shuriken. I still haven't made the crossbow that I love so much, but I wanted to at least try something different for once. In this case, it's, well, the shuriken. The main reason I need some sort of ranged weapon is, despite my emerald armor being very strong, I don't think I'm gonna last long against the end crystals. Now, I could have just used like snowballs, which probably would have been a better and cheaper option, especially considering I had the glacial precipitator to make it. Oh well, shurikens, it's even cooler. Getting to the end, I really should have just used the hammer to make a 3x3 out in the first place, because the air charm is kind of weird with surfaces and you'll fall down occasionally. As you can see, it's like a stair effect or auto jump, I guess. It's super bizarre. But yeah, there's nothing too special about the Ender Dragon fight. I mean, I use the shurikens to get the crystals out, I have to mine up the iron bars, and I use the sword to chop, and I use my favorite cleaver to chop up the end dragon when she is perched, right? It's a female, because it lays an egg. Nothing too special. And for some reason I decided to do this on hard difficulty when it would have just been easier to do it on, well, easy. There's no benefits at all from doing it on hard mode. It just wastes a bunch of time. Killing the Ender Dragon is an insanely important step in this mod. Normally it's kind of just useless, even though it does give you access to end cities, those aren't as important here. We need to kill the End Dragon for a few things. First of all, I should have brought bottles to get Dragon's Breath, completely forgot about that. The most important drop is the Dragon Heart, which automatically teleports to our inventory. This lets us start a ton of Draconic Evolution stuff, which I will get working on way later. Another neat drop is Dragon Scales. Getting these allows me to make a new set of Dragon Armor, which I'll do a little bit later on. I have to kill the Ender Dragon one more time, but after that, a full set of Dragon Armor actually lets you fly. And it gives you, like, creative flight, not this trashy air charm flight that's super slow. After looting the end for a while, I decided to hollow out a massive area near the bottom of the world. Now, I literally haven't even used this area yet, but it's there, and it's pretty neat. but I found some bitumen, I'm actually not sure how it's pronounced, but you can melt this down into liquefied coal for all the thermodynamic stuff. You can turn it into fuel, but we have big reactors for that instead. One of the next main things I'm going to be working on is Draconic Evolution. Considering a lot of the crafting in there takes just an unholy amount of power, I'm talking like thousands to millions, maybe even more RF. To be able to handle all of that, I am going to need the cryo-stabilized flux ducts. These are pretty expensive, but thankfully I've managed to craft all of the seeds and everything I need to actually make them. The most annoying part though is definitely the hardened glass, but I can handle it. The main difference between normal slime chunks and swamp slime chunks is the swamp ones can spawn slimes way higher up. That's why you can see slimes on the surface of the swamp sometimes. Either way though, they might be an issue, but I can solve that with like slabs or string and something like that. But still, I should probably avoid building this low. For my next major project, I need to build some more Ender IO machinery, and that is pretty annoying. I haven't played too much of whatever version this is with the different quality of machines, you know, like the simple, normal, and advanced ones. I think it's super unique, but also super annoying because of all the stuff I need to do to get each different machine. Thankfully, I have a huge grass patch where I was trying to grow the flowers from earlier, and I can just bone meal that and use shears to pick up the normal grass, which I need to make trimmings and clippings and all other sorts of stuff for Ender IO. Long story short, it's just going to be a long, painful process. One crazy thing I wish I'd noticed earlier is this tiny coal. Now, normally you would just use tiny coal to be able to smelt one item in a furnace, but this specific variety actually acts as pulverized coal. Considering I can literally just craft it with a cheap hammer that doesn't lose durability, that is insane. I can make steel 100 times easier now. I wish I'd known that from the beginning. Man, I could have full steel tools and everything. Either way though, that was an awesome find. My next major project is one thing that's pretty vital to some mods, especially stuff like Draconic Evolution, where you need a ridiculous amount of nether stars. Now, it is possible to actually grow nether stars thanks to mystical agriculture, but that's a whole process and I think it would take way too long compared to just automating normal wither killing, which is what this is. Withers are built at the top, they'll float down to the bottom and be literally instantly killed by a grinder from Draconic Evolution. I'm gonna skip about 45 minutes of pain and suffering trying to make this thing work and have the placers actually place the skulls correctly, because yes, there are different auto placers from different mods and the first ones I tried weren't working. After that project, I moved my garden closures to this larger and taller room, and eventually I'll add a whole nother level up there. It's beautiful. This allows me to, well, you know, add more seeds, grow more types of plants. Overall, it's really good. It's just going to take me a while to relocate all of the seeds over there. Now that I have even more resource production, which trust me is nowhere near enough for this run, I can start making more stuff, which is going to start a series of events that will help me eventually beat the game, but it's going to take an ungodly amount of time to do. The first thing I need to make are these bizarre compressed crafting tables. Doesn't make much sense why you'd want to compress one, but it's necessary to make the next thing I'm working on. My crafting grid seems to have broken, which also makes no sense. Probably not a good sign of how cursed things are about to become, and a simple game reload does fix this. But here's the weird thing, the double compressed crafting table. Alright, that's nothing too crazy. Now I need to make these diamond lattices and these crystal matrix ingots, which are, as you can see, stupidly expensive. You always need more diamonds than you think, just like iron and redstone. With my wither farm, nether stars aren't a major issue, but yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out something for diamonds now. When I was back in the nether gathering more soul sand and stone, I found that the evil craft actually adds infected soul sand. Yes, just like infected stone blocks in the base game that spawn silverfish, these spawn nether silverfish. I thought that was very interesting. I also crafted these tier 6 Infernium seeds, but unfortunately you can't put them in garden cloches. This is when I discovered that yes, when you manually harvest crops, or with like a farm or something like that, something besides the garden cloche, it can actually create new seeds, which is something I should have been doing this entire time, because that would have saved me a lot of essence and time. But that is very good to know. A little bit after that, I finally have enough diamonds to make the extreme crafting table. This is going to start all the ridiculous infinity ingots and everything like that. Yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous, to say the least. These neutron collectors cost a ton of iron, redstone, quartz. Those are cheap enough, but we still need tons of diamonds to make more of those ingots. It also just casually gives me a second ultimate furnace, which I will gladly take. Well, I guess it's back to waiting for diamonds to be produced. I've gotten enough cyanite ingots from my current reactor running to be able to make a steam turbine. The thing about steam turbines is they're only good if you can make them super massive. This one is 5 by 5 by 9 on the outside, I believe, but it almost generates the same power as my base reactor. So yeah, you want them to be super massive. And not kind of patched together like this one is. Since I definitely don't have the materials to continue with that mod, I actually don't remember what it's called, the infinity stuff, I decided to make this Philosopher's Stone. The main issue is that it costs prismarine shards, and I'm pretty sure it's from a loot bag or something like that, I already have a little bit of prismarine, which is really nice. I just have to throw that in a crusher, and I'll get my Philosopher's Stone. Pretty easy. Obviously, I would love to make a transmutation tablet, but yeah, when you look at that recipe, I'd say it's gonna take just a little bit of time. Just a tiny bit. After spending almost 30 minutes trying to figure out what I was doing wrong with fusion crafting, because it's been literally years since I've done this, I realize each object needs its own space. You can't just put like a stack of diamonds on one and have it count for all four. No, that just doesn't work. Thankfully, the early recipes for fusion crafting are relatively cheap when it comes to power. Even though I'm producing almost 4,000 RF a tick, these recipes just eat up power in insane amounts. Trust me, it gets crazy with later recipes. For now, I'm just upgrading all of these slots because you have to upgrade these so you can craft better and better items, but I'm definitely gonna have to start worrying about power soon. Because of all those new garden cloches and the ridiculous amount of things I'm now creating, I'm actually starting to run out of storage space. So I'm fixing that real quick here by making some more large drives. And yeah, since I skipped a bunch of these because I just spawned in this storage system, I'm actually doing all the quests now. In total, I have almost 350,000 bytes of storage, which is a lot. In fusion crafting, those first wyvern injectors, those only cost 256,000 RF. Which is still quite a bit considering, and I'll be generous because it's only 3.86, but for math's sake, I'm going to round it up to 4,000 RF a tick. There are 20 ticks in 1 second. You guys want to know how much this current recipe of awakened draconium blocks costs? Well, if not, too bad, I'm telling you anyways. 350 million RF. That is 7 full charges of this resonant energy cell. Doing the math, that would take, so with my current power output, and technically it is going to take longer because it's slightly less, that would take 87,500 ticks. Dividing that by 20 is 4,375 seconds, which approximates to almost 1 hour and 12 minutes. It's probably closer to 1 hour 30 of charging time. Needless to say, I'm going to need some sort of new power solution, and now, if I want to get any further with Draconic Evolution. I stated at the very beginning exactly how I'm going to get power this run. The only issue is size of the reactor. So my first goal is to upgrade my tool with Supremium. It takes quite a bit of resources to upgrade to Supremium ingots, but thankfully I now have the essence to do that. I fully upgrade my hammer to complete Supremium, and it is awesome. It's a huge mining and durability bonus, which is exactly what I need to start hollowing out the next area for my reactor. Well, I've been hollowing it out this whole time, but I decided to finally upgrade my tool. The max reactor size is 32 by 32 by 48. So I hollowed out this massive area near the top of my world. The entire plan is to hollow out kind of like a skeleton around it, and then use ore excavator to get all the stone out of the middle even faster. I also noticed that with Supremium and all of the mystical agriculture ingots, you actually get prosperity shards sometimes when you mine, which is insanely helpful because there aren't many ways to get these things. Needless to say, I don't know how much time this took, but I'm betting it was an hour or two. Now that the entire space is hollowed out, and it is a 33 by 33 at the bottom, by the way. I also changed the max reactor size to be that because I am not just having a 32 by 32 when my hammer digs in intervals of 3. The only real problem with this reactor is going to be the cost of it, because the whole plan is that I'm going to make it one long strip and then slowly expand the sides out as I get more and more resources and the ability to, well, expand it. Starting out, it's actually going to be 5 wide. I was originally just going to have 1 in the middle, but then I decided I might as well try and get 3 in the middle. And, of course, 33 long. You might be wondering why we're suddenly 35 days later. Well, I let my computer run overnight, and it almost has filled up, and it's almost filled up the 400 kilobytes of storage. Yeah, I had to add another drive. It is that ridiculous. And I definitely regret not setting up automatic crafting actually in this part at all. That's only something I thought about after doing all this recording. So yeah, expect to see that in part 2 for sure. For some reason, I still haven't swapped my old reactor to use Resonant Ender, which is molten ender pearls, because it actually has the same cooling potential as cryolithium, but it flows all the way down, not in single block sources. So that's what I'll be using for this reactor. With the insane amount of ender pearls I have, I was able to get almost a full tank of this stuff, and this is a Singulum tier 3 tank. So yeah, there's quite a bit in here to say the least. The only issue is it's going to take a while to completely fill this reactor, but it is the best cooling source I have available, relatively cheaply at least. After all that time, it's finally complete. The 5 wide, 48 tall, and 33 long extreme reactor. Now I just have to fuel it, which is a whole nother issue in of itself. I definitely don't have enough Yellorium production because I only crafted almost 4 blocks. Needless to say, that is nowhere near enough fuel. When you view it from the side, you can see how much just one stack puts in. That is like nothing. That's 3 blocks, 4 at best. I'm going to need way more than that. The other issue being the fact that the reactor generates more power the more fuel it has inside of it. Oh yeah, so the dimensional transceiver. This is great for sending items and fluids across space and time. The only issue was it's not meant to do unlimited power like tesseracts from thermodynamics are, which I looked and unfortunately are not in this version. So that's why you've been hearing explosions every so often. It's those things just being angry. I'm putting way too much power inside of them and they do not enjoy it. Which means I'm just gonna have to run a standard massive conduit of these cryostabilized flux ducts. I was hoping I didn't have to do that, but yeah, it looks like I have to now, and it is ridiculously expensive. Either way though, 243,000 RF a tick. That's a slight upgrade. With this new incredible power generation, it cuts the charging time of this thing to just over 1 minute instead of over 1 hour, which is awesome. The only bottleneck is actually the dimensional transceivers. I don't know the conversion rate of micro infinity to RF, but it's definitely weird and it's not letting enough RF through currently. So there's definitely that, but way quicker no matter how you put it. A while later, I finished connecting the massive cryostabilized flux duct conduit all the way from up there to down here. And now it only takes, like I said earlier, a little bit more than a minute to charge this thing. I also disconnected my turbine grid from the big reactor grid because I don't want all of my turbine power going into that. The turbine fuels the garden cloches and, more importantly, my item storage. I'm going to need way more dragon hearts to continue with draconic evolution. Because of that, I finally upgraded my cleaver from Minoleon to Supremium, and it is a massive boost. You can also see a mob grinder in my inventory. I tried to kill the dragon with that. Yep, it does not work. I'm gonna have to figure out some other way to automate dragon killing, or just kill a ton of ender dragons manually, which would also be annoying. I also finally have the resources to be able to make the neutron collectors. You are going to want hundreds of these things, even to just get the seeds, which those are its whole thing. I'll go over that in part 2. But yeah, you want as many of these as you can make because you're going to want a lot of neutrons for all this insane infinity stuff. Since I'm producing an insane amount of power, I need power storage to match it. And draconic evolution, again, can help us with that. Since I am not insanely rich, especially when it comes to awakened draconium right now, I can't make one of the maximum size power storages that I want, but this will do for now. The crazy thing is the fact this isn't even close to the maximum. The maximum can hold almost infinite energy. For now, I can only make a tier 5 since it's relatively cheap for its insane capacity, that being 60 gigawatts. It's going to take quite a while to charge, but considering I'm not using all of that power right now, I think I can definitely make it happen. Alright, I know I'm jumping back and forth between things, but that's literally how the run is just going. I want to do some more Project E stuff. I don't really know what to do. I'm kind of just letting that massive battery charge for now. And I want to start doing other stuff because I'm really putting off the infinity ingots and stuff like that. Those are just stupid. Starting out Project E requires an insane amount of coal. Everything in this mod requires a ridiculous amount of something. Eventually I get all the way up to alternate fuel, which can be used to make dark matter, and eventually with enough dark matter, red matter. But that's gonna take a while. Using the fusion crafting system, I made these energy condensers. They're relatively cheap, but the early tiers are extremely slow. They generate energy over time and can upgrade the tiers of this coal and everything like that. And you can actually combine multiple, but only when they're touching each other. So you can have one in the middle with one on each side. Another neat thing I saw here is the Klein star is actually counting in German. I only know 1, 2, 3. The next thing I need to craft, Draconian cores. That's so I can also upgrade the crafting injectors. These things are relatively expensive, but I can easily handle them. One thing I definitely should have crafted way earlier was these mining multi-tools, which first of all I thought you needed to craft 10. No, they actually have durability. Anyways, I'm trying to make a portal to that mining dimension from this mod. I've literally never seen this mod before, so I was interested to see what it's all about. It's built the exact same as the Nether portal, or at least how I like to do it, with only 10 blocks instead of 14, and it sends us to a very interesting place. It's like a super flat world. There's plenty of caves and everything beneath us, but yeah, the surface is super flat, which I thought was very cool. There's all sorts of flowers and structures from other mods here, which is pretty neat. Alright, here's the only thing of note here. Since I can literally make everything else at my base, I got one item I've been wanting this entire run. Rubber. Rubber is used for quite a bit of things, but most importantly, to make rubber seeds. Rubber seeds will let me eventually make plastic from the essence, and that is massive, because, like I just said, I'm gonna need that for quite a bit of stuff. So, overall, this was a very fruitful journey, even though I only needed one thing from here. To help expedite ender dragon killing, I was trying out this Supremium bow. Now, I don't have the feathers to make the arrows. I should really get chickens going or something like that. And I'm guessing it would be better with the Supremium arrows, but overall it's nothing too crazy. So I went back to old reliable, and that is the crossbow. Pretty much my favorite weapon that you can make in any Minecraft mod. Well, besides guns, but we don't have those in here. Honestly, that probably would have been a neat addition. The crossbow itself is relatively easy, it's the bolt that becomes an issue. You see, you can't just make a Supremium bolt like I want to. There are only a few materials that you can actually make bolts out of, and looking at all my options, which are pretty bad, I'll be honest, the best is actually sugarcane, or reeds in this case, which I put in a bonsai pot a long time ago, so I have plenty now. Thankfully though, I can coat it in Supremium, so I still get a Supremium bolt, the core is just a bit different. And fletching is obviously feather because there's nothing else that's good for it. The crossbow, much like the cleaver, and that's probably why I love it so much, is extremely powerful but extremely slow to load up and fire. I still quite enjoy it though, and I might make things interesting in the next part. Who knows? With those draconic cores that I made earlier, I upgraded all of the crafting injectors yet again, and this will let me upgrade my energy collectors. In total, I made 5 because, like I said earlier, it's a cross-shaped pattern and that's like the max efficiency. Almost 10 Minecraft days later, I finally have enough Yellorium to fully fuel this reactor, which is only a little bit ridiculous. I also made this advanced dislocator when you weren't looking. This lets me set different locations, even between dimensions, and I can teleport to them at will, making movement way better. I set up an enchanter to make evil iron, which just costs nether stars and iron. It's really cheap. But I had to set up all those draconium blocks because you need enchantment power. You know, normally you'd use bookshelves, but I don't have all the materials to make bookshelves and those are expensive. Draconium is literally cheaper at this point. But I'll be perfectly honest, this is going to be the end of this part of the run. This is a multi-part run. I didn't want it to be, but yeah, it's certainly looking that way with how insanely complicated this whole mod pack is, which I did not expect at all. It's the first Stoneblock. I thought it would be relatively simple, but I'm not complaining because I am really enjoying it so far, except for Botania. We'll go over that in the next part. But yeah, at this point I was just getting overwhelmed and I realized I need to take a break, turn this into a video instead, and I'll get working on the next part later on. Thank you all for watching, and a special thank you to all of my YouTube channel members. I really appreciate everyone. And this is going to be Enzo from LookIntoGaming, signing out.